Hey guys, we are here again for a question of the week, and today I want to talk a little bit about training plans. Specifically, the question is, how can you make your training sessions meaningful with a low number of repetitions? So first, let's talk about what meaningful means. To me, that is going to mean that each repetition takes you closer to your end result, right? So you can see progress within the session, and that session is better than what you did in the previous session, and it sets you up to continue that progress in the next session. And how are we going to do that with a low number of repetitions? Especially when we're training agility, some of the obstacles can be physically taxing, like 12 sets, a set of 12 weave poles, or the entire full height A-frame. Those kind of obstacles are physically taxing. Maybe it's jump grids, or just a sequence where there is a lot of jumping, if jumping is taxing for your dog. So there can be physically taxing things that we ask them to do in agility, but there's also mentally taxing things that we ask them to do. The first kind of thing that comes to mind with mentally taxing is the beginning of run and start line routines. When the dog just really wants to go and start running, having to stay still and be calm on the start line can be mentally taxing. And of course, there are certain obstacles that can be mentally taxing for them as well. So we do want to try and keep those repetitions down. And personally, I try to keep my sessions to kind of between 6 and 10 reps, depending on the dog that I'm training and the skill that I'm training. And so I just want to keep things short and sweet, but still make progress. So how do we do that? I'm going to remind you to focus on one layer at a time, that you don't have to shove a whole lot of objectives into one training session that lasts 10 or 15 minutes. You can focus on one layer, have a training session that lasts 2 or 3 minutes, take a break, go train something else for another 2 or 3 minutes, maybe play some tug or some food games, or just go for a little sniffy walk, come back and do another layer. But that's kind of the first big tip, is to separate your layers of training and focus on one at a time, and at least interject some breaks in between these circuit sessions. Okay, so types of sessions and layers that you can be using is adding a reinforcer as a distraction. So putting a toy on the ground beyond the A-frame. So your dog has to hit the target and then go to the pre-placed reward, instead of jumping over the target, missing the target to grab the reward on their own. You can add in handler distractions, and that can just be manipulating your motion just a little bit differently. So maybe if your dog struggles with moving ahead when you're behind, the handler distraction that you can use is that you're only going to walk, right? Or you can add in handling. So when we're talking about obstacle training, our handling is a distraction, because we need the dog to complete the obstacle criteria independent of what our handling and what our motion is doing. We can also take them to a new environment. We can, grab a jump or set of 2x2s and take it to the park and just do a really simple session, because the environment is the layer that we're working on. So I'm not going to add in reinforcer distractions if the environment is also a distraction. Okay, and we can also, sequencing is a layer that needs to be focused on as its own training point. So these are just a few ideas, but remember, you want to focus on one of these at a time so you can keep the repetitions low and keep the meaningfulness of your session high.